So now we're going to talk about using tonics in improvisation. So there's a couple of different ways that you could do this, and this is going to feature in a project that I'm going to talk about in the next and final lesson of this section. But to use a tonic in improvisation, what I'll often do is I'll make sure that my melodic phrase, let's say I'm going to assume here that I'm improvising a guitar solo. Could be a keyboard solo or solo on any monophonic instrument, but it's a melodic line that I'm playing. When you're doing that, what I'll often try to do is I'll know which note I'm shooting for my phrase to resolve on. It could be B, could be C sharp. Even if I'm, say, playing a song that's clearly in the key of A major, insofar as it's using the keys A, D, and E7, it's clearly in the key of A major. It's not in B Dorian, it's not in C sharp Phrygian so much. It's pretty clearly in A. I mean, some people would make an argument this way or that. But what I want to point out is that even if the harmony is in A major or A Ionian, I will actually try to frame up a B in the midst of that context where A is the harmonic tonic. I'll try and phrase up a melodic phrase such that B is my tonic, even if it's only temporary. And I'll do that usually by framing it up with chord tones that orient around the root third, fifth. In other words, spelling out a B minor triad. And I'll make sure that that F sharp, just as we've discussed, being the fifth of B, is used just before the B in order to frame up the B so the B feels resolved. That would be something that I would do in improvisational as much as I can to create interest, right? Instead of just like running scales, try to think, okay, I'm in A, I like the sound of Dorian, I'm going to shoot for the modal tonic of B in this key. And I'm going to find my B on my fretboard, on my instrument, and I'm going to play a melodic phrase that makes that note, when I resolve on it, feel like that's the home base, all right? But you could do this in other ways. You could resolve to different notes within the chord. So let's say that the band arrives at a big resolution on an A major chord. Well, I could dissect and spell out that chord. The triad that spells out an A major chord is A, C sharp, and E, right? We got the root, the third, and the fifth, okay? I just want to clear away a little bit of stuff here so that's a little clearer. So we've got the root, third, fifth of A major. Then when the band arrives at that, I might play a phrase that resolves on A. That'll sound nice and grounded. But I may make a phrase that winds up resolving on E, the fifth of the chord. Or I may make a melodic idea that resolves on C sharp, the third of the chord. And in this way, my improvisation sort of takes on a lot of nuance and interest. I'm not always going to the place that seems obvious to the listener. But at the same time, I'm sort of exploiting this idea of tonics. And I'm playing around with tonics. And I'm sort of straining the listener's ear to see if they can hear other tonics besides the most obvious one. Okay, so in the next lesson, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm also going to outline a sort of way to turn this into an exercise, a repeatable exercise that you can do to familiarize yourself with these tonic concepts that we've discussed. And also, hopefully, in the process, if you're not already familiar, get more familiar with how to spell out chords and triads, how to spell out scales and keys, and then orient yourself with modes within scales. So that's coming up in the next and final lesson.